Everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Today we're going to be doing my top 15 books of 2021. I know that this video is coming a little bit late, but I still wanted to do it because I wanted to talk to you about my favorite books of 2021. Obviously, that's why we're doing this video. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please make sure you do so. There's a lot more videos coming up this year. I'm going to stay on top of everything this year. That's a promise. That's a goal of mine. I'm gonna stay on top of everything this year, and I hope that you stick around for that. But yeah, we're gonna jump right into it today. We're not gonna sit around here and just like we usually do. We're just gonna right on in. So I have 15 books of 2021. Yes, I'm gonna look at my phone. If that bothers you, I'm sorry, but I'm scatterbrained and I can't keep up with anything. So we're gonna talk about some stats first before we get into it. Stack of books right here. So I just wanted to let you know that I read, like, out of the 101 books that I read in 2021, 7 of my favorites were thriller mystery. One of those was YA. Then I have 2 of my favorite books of 2021 that were science fiction. One of those was YA. I have 2 horror books that were my favorite and 4 romance books that were my favorite. So overall this year I read a lot more thrillers than I have in the past. Really enjoyed it. I jumped into a little bit more horror this past year. Really enjoyed that as well. So those are some of the stats that I wanted to share with you before we step down. These books, until we get to the very last one, are in no particular order whatsoever. I have them listed on my phone in a particular order, but as I was going through, kind of refreshing my brain on what they were, I really can't decide which order they're supposed to go in, except the like my top favorite of 2021. So yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about it. So the first book that I want to talk about is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I really loved this book. This book is about sisters who have had a tragic past. Their sister Julia disappeared 2 decades as this novel starts, and that really put a rift in our main characters, Lydia and Claire's friendship, sisterhood, whatever you want to call it, relationship in general. And they kind of went their separate ways, but something happens to one of the sisters and it brings them back together, and then all of the trauma from the past, all of the memories from the past start coming back to them as well, and they want to figure out what really happened to their sister because she was never found. So this book is all about reuniting. It's all about sisters. It's all about survival. It's just a lot of stuff wrapped into one. It's very gruesome. It's very graphic. That is one thing that I have heard that Karen Slaughter is very good at. This is my first Karen Slaughter book, by the way, but it's not going to be my last, I guarantee that. But it is very hard to read at times. I know that it's harder for some people. For me, it wasn't as graphic as people play it out to be, but I can see why it would be a harder read to get through. So just know that there are some trigger warnings in here. I'm not going to say too much about this because, you know, when I talk about my thrillers, I really don't want to talk about too much detail because I don't want to give anything away. And that's all you really need to know. Sisters, survival, someone's gone missing. Julia, their older sister, has gone missing. They don't know what happened to her, and it ruins their relationship, but they come back together in the end. I mean, come on. Why wouldn't you want to read that? Then I have The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. This wasn't some people's favorite, but I absolutely freaking love this book. But I really love Jane Eyre as well. So this is a Jane Eyre retelling, and it is about suburbia. It is based in Birmingham, and I live very close to Birmingham, so a lot of the descriptions of like the town and how the people act, and just like the diversity, or not diversity, but just like the split of people that live in Birmingham, this was really, it was very close. And I am familiar with Birmingham, so getting to read about it was really cool. This is about Jane, and she is a dog walker for this gated community that is in Birmingham, and she believes that she should have everything that all of these housewives have. She has worked really hard. She also steals from the people that she dog walks for, and then there's this one suspicious guy that lives at the end of her road, and his wife just up and went missing one day, and nobody knows what happened to his wife. Jane feels like she deserves him, so they start a relationship. Things start happening. It gets out of hand. It gets crazy. It gets twisty. It gets turny. Some people say that they could see the twist from a mile away. If you read Jane Eyre, you kind of know what's going to happen, but that's just like one of the things that I was looking forward to in this book, to see how Rachel Hawkins was going to handle that situation. If you've never read Jane Eyre before, I'm not going to tell you what that twist is at the end. But if you have, it's a really cool interpretation of how she interpreted Jane Eyre, so I liked it. Obviously, I gave it 5 stars. The next book on my list is The Night Swim by Megan Golden. I listened to this book on audio, which I would highly recommend you do because the audiobook is fabulous. So this is about a podcast. It's a true crime podcast that is covering a situation that happened with a rape trial. And the podcaster, Rachel, is a household name. She's very, very popular. So when she starts covering this rape case, this rape trial, she gets a lot of traction, and then she starts to get mysterious notes as well. And you see the trial and the notes that she's getting go hand in hand. There's also something else that happens in this book that is part of the trial too. So there's a lot of different things coming together. I would say there's like 3 different, not storylines, but 3 different ways the story comes together. But I highly, highly recommend the audiobook if you can get a hold of it. Audiobook all the way for this one. But yes, fabulous read. It is very hard to get through. When I say fabulous read, I'm saying that it's very like heart-wrenching. It gets you right here, and it makes you mad, it makes you cry, it makes you sad. It's just like all of these different things, all these different emotions wrapped up in one, and you really want justice for the girls that this has happened to. So there's that book. The next book I have to talk about is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. Again, this is another book that people claim that wasn't a thriller, but I found this book terrifying because if you think about it, if you've known people all your life and they just like end up disappearing and you don't know what happened to them, they say that they've moved, but you don't really know if that's true or not because crazy things are going on in your neighborhood and all these different people are moving in, and that's terrifying. So I really don't understand where people's mindsets were when they said this wasn't a thriller, but I ate this book up. This book was scary. This book was fast-paced. People thought it was slow. To me, it was fast-paced. But this is about a girl named Sydney Green who grew up in Brooklyn. She was raised in Brooklyn. She moves back to her family home. And when she moves back to her family home, she has realized that all the neighbors that she has lived around start disappearing. She is black, and she lives in a black neighborhood in Brooklyn. And all these white people just start moving in. And so this is a book about gentrification, but these black people are disappearing in weird and mysterious ways, and Sydney doesn't understand why. And then this guy named Leo moves in across the way, and Sydney and him become friends, and they both start really pay attention to the neighborhood. So they try to help each other figure out what's going on in the neighborhood. The ending twist was crazy to me. I liked this book. I thought that it was a very good representation of what's going on in a lot of neighborhoods, and that's scary to people. I think it's scary. I mean, if you think about it from your viewpoint, if people you know all your life are coming up missing, that's terrifying. So there's that book. The next book I have is In the Dark by Laureth Ann White. I really liked this book as well. This is a thriller about going to a remote location, but when you get there, the remote location's not really how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a relaxing vacation, but then people ended up getting killed, and everybody has a secret. The secrets start coming out, and you're like, oh, wow, didn't see that coming. This is a really good book. It's about survival. It's, like I said, just people getting picked off one by one, and when you think you know what's going to happen in the book, you're completely wrong. That's what happened to me a couple times. But I thought that this book was really entertaining. Did I like all the characters? No, but you're not supposed to, because there's 2 characters in here that are freaking awful people, and I didn't really feel sorry for them about what happened to them or their backstory, but I don't think you're supposed to. I don't know if that makes me a bad person or not, but I didn't feel sorry for them at all. But anyways, these aren't likable characters, so just know that going in, but it is a very entertaining, fast, quick, twisty story. Then I have Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is one of the YA novels that I have on here. This book is very emotional. This is about a girl named Enchanted who is an aspiring singer, and she is able to get on this show for aspiring singers. She doesn't end up winning the show, like a competition show, but the person who is hosting this competition notices Enchanted, forms a relationship with Enchanted. He's older, so this is about grooming, and this is a very hard story to get through, but it's also very empowering as well, because you see the transformation that Enchanted goes through, and you see her being a secretive little teenager when she thinks she's grown, hence grown. But you think, like, she thinks that she is grown, but then she finally realizes that she made a mistake and that she needs to get out of the situation, but she's trapped and she doesn't know how. So this book goes back and forth from present to past. I really liked that aspect of this. I also read this on audio. Highly recommend the audiobook as well too. But it is a very captivating and important story that I think a lot of young people need to read. So it's a very good book. Then the next book that I have on my list is Neanderthal Seeks Human by Penny Reed. I really like this book too. Obviously, I'm going to say that about every single book on here. But this book is about a girl named Janie who is very quirky. She's just odd. She's one of those people that a lot of people don't understand, but it's hard not to love her because she's just herself, you know? And she is having a really hard time. She meets a guy named Quinn who is intimidating. He's broody. He doesn't like people. He's very good at his job, but like outside of his job, people don't know how to take him. And he is captivated by Janie, and you see their relationship start happening. This is kind of like a enemies to lovers. Enemies to lovers. It's a taboo. Well, I wouldn't say taboo. It is an office romance. They're not supposed to be together. Quinn does kind of like lie to Janie a little bit about being the boss, but that's not really a spoiler. But the main thing that I liked about this book is just that it was so quirky. It was very funny. I laughed out loud in this book, and I really liked Janie's girlfriends that she had, the group of girls that she has. They knit and they just talk crap about people, and they're very supportive. It was just a really cute, captivating book, and I liked it. So there you go. Then I have Radiance by Grace Draven, and this is a fantasy romance. I really don't know how to say these names, but the love interest in here, he is of a different species than her. She's human. These two people aren't supposed to get along, but they have an arranged marriage. They are friends before they fall in love, which I really liked to see their dynamic. They had a very, very close relationship before they started becoming attracted to one another. It's not off of looks. It is strictly off of just pure love that they have for each other. They go through a lot of different things with each other in this story. He has to save her a lot. People are trying to kill him. People are trying to kill her. And it's just one of those really sweet romances. And it's just nice to read about. So there's that. The next book that I have on here is the sequel to this book, and this is the second book in the Tegan Frost series. Tegan Frost is a telekinesis person. She can move things with her mind, and in this book, she's still working for the government agency that she was working with in the first book. But in this book, you come across a little 4-year-old that's a little crazy and he can set off earthquakes. And they find out that it's a little boy and it's not just random things happening. So she has to try to stop him because she's the only one that actually can. It is crazy. It is fast paced. It is funny. It's everything that you want in a action-packed book. I think Tegan is hilarious and I want to be her friend. So there's that. Highly recommend that series, by the way. If you haven't read it, you should. Then I have another series that you need to read. This is the second book in the Chaos Cycle. The first book is called The Hollow Gods. This was in my top 15 books of last year too. This is called The Echoed Realm. Still following Kai and Maya, but they have to go on a different adventure. They have to work separately. They typically work together when they're doing their little ghostly figuring out different world things. But in this one they are forced to work apart. And this one really explores their individual identities and past and where they came from, and you get a lot of their history, which I really enjoyed. Plus you also find out some other secrets about the first book, Black Hollow. That was the setting of the first book, and you find out a lot of different things about Black Hollow in this book and the history behind Black Hollow. So not only is this super dark, captivating, but it also has a lot of historical elements to it as well that you need to know about the characters. Not that you didn't get enough information in this book, but this just builds on Kai and Maya's past selves, and I really liked learning about them. So that book is really, really good. Hey, so sorry that the background's changed, the lighting's changed. My camera died in the middle of me talking, and I decided to go eat because I was hungry. And now it's dark outside, so we're just going to continue on with this. But I was talking about the next book that I read, and it was Rattlesnake Road by Amanda McKinney, and I really liked this book. I didn't really have a lot of expectations going into this book. I got it off of NetGalley. But this book was a really dark story about a girl named Gray who has lost her husband and has lost her job. Well, she technically quit her job. She ended up, in the very first of the book, she had a miscarriage, and it tells you, like, goes real deep into it. And it explains what's happening to her body. So if you are very triggered by that, I would go, if you are interested in this book, would go into that knowing that that's in there, and it's very descriptive. But the whole point of this book is to see Gray's downward spiral after all these things have happened. She's lost her husband, she lost her baby. She thought that she had her dream job, but then she realized that it wasn't her dream job. So she really has nothing besides the money that she has earned in her job. And she moves to this little bitty town that she's had a history with, and moves into a cabin that is in need of repair, and it's falling apart. But she gets it, not knowing that it's falling apart, because the listing didn't say anything about it falling apart and it being in despair. But she moves in, she renovates the cabin by herself. She says that she doesn't want a man, she wants to be by herself for a little bit, and you just see her going through her personal growth. She's a 31-year-old woman who just lost everything, so she's having to rebuild her life alone. And it was just a very beautiful story. It does have a romance in it, obviously. It's listed as a romance, but I'm not going to tell you who it is, and I'm not going to tell you how she gets there, because that's just like part of the novel. But there is a paranormal twist to this book that I wasn't expecting, and that was very exciting. Very exciting. So you got some ghosts, you got some romance, got some midlife crisis stuff going on, you know. So it was a really good read. Know the trigger warnings before you go in it. Read the trigger warnings. But other than that, it was a really beautiful book. So I would highly recommend it if you were interested in that book. And then we're going to talk about The next book on my list, this is also a book in a series. If you watched me last year, you'll know that this was on my top 15. Now, the second book in the series is in my top 15. This is one of the most underrated series that I have ever seen in historical romance. This is Hands of Fate by Lucia Amanobi, and she is, I believe she's an indie author, but she reached out to me when the first book came out, and I read her book and fell freaking in love with it. It was so good. The second book is about, you can read these separately by the way. The second book is about a girl named Aaliyah who moves to the colony that they are living in. This is set in December, what was the date? December 5th, 1731. So it's way on back there, y'all. But this is about a new colony that is being built, and people are living off the land, and people are learning how to survive in the wild without, you know, extravagant things. Wealthy people are moving to this island, and then we also have people that aren't wealthy moving to the island as well, and those are the people that are actually building the town. But Aaliyah is she has a prestigious background, but she is running from that background. Like, she's running from her past because terrible things have happened, and she moves to, like, she gets to the colony. And in the first book it explains it, and it happens in the second book as well to Aaliyah. To go to this colony, you have to marry someone that you don't know, and they pick who your spouse is for you. So she ends up marrying somebody, but on the ship there, he ends up dying. So when she gets there, she's single. So she doesn't have anywhere to go. And in this colony, the men are the ones who build the houses. So she doesn't really have anywhere to go, you know? But she ends up knowing somebody that's there. They take her in, and then we have Nino, who is the captain of the colony, kind of like the sheriff of the colony. And Aaliyah and him have had background before. They have known each other in the past. The second chance romance. It is so beautiful, y'all. This is one of the most beautiful historical romances that I've ever read before. These two books right here. And they are so underrated, and I don't understand why. If you have not read this series yet and you're a historical romance lover, you need to pick these books up because they're so good. This is Winds of Fate. This is the first book. And then this is Hands of Fate. Then, next, I have Hunted by Darcy Coates. Darcy Coates is one of those authors that I found this year, and I'm not going to stop reading her books because Hunted was absolutely fabulous. It had so many twists and turns in it. It was unexpected. This is a straight survival story. This is about a girl named Aline who goes missing in these woods, and evidently a lot of people have gone missing in these woods, but the only thing that was found left, or the only thing that was left behind, is her camera. So when the pictures get developed, obviously because she's gone missing, the pictures get developed, the cops don't see anything in the pictures, but then her brother Chris, actually gets the pictures and lightens them because the pictures were taken in the dark. And when they lighten the pictures, they see something lurking in the background, and you can see it stalking Aline in the nighttime. So Chris takes it upon himself to go looking for his sister because no one else is, and it goes crazy, and he brings 3 of his friends along with him. They're trying to find his sister. People die. You see them struggle, just try to survive in the wild. Something's hunting them. So it's a crazy book. This was really, really good. I enjoyed this book a lot. It was highly unexpected. I went into this book not really knowing anything, but y'all, is good. You need to pick it up. The next book in the series is something that I read at the very beginning of the year. Didn't have really high hopes for this going in, but I'm so glad that I read it because I ended up loving this book. This is Girls with Sharp Objects by Suzanne Young, and this is about a school called the Interventions Academy, and there are these girls at this academy that are trained to be perfect women, and they are taught how to be perfect housewives, and they are taught just to be perfect in general, but there's something weird about these girls. And then the girls figure out that something is going on, and when they figure out what happens, things just go bad. I don't know any other word besides just bad. And our main character, Mina, and her friends are very determined to figure out what's happening and why it's happening, and they don't want it to happen when they find out like what's going on, and they take it upon themselves to change it. And this was awesome. This is a science fiction, kind of like body horror, but it's more on the science fiction realm. And y'all, this book was great. I really enjoyed this book, not even realizing what I was getting myself into. And I'm so glad that I finished it. So glad that I picked it up, because it was one of those books that I was like, do I really want to? But I'm so glad I did. And I plan on reading the next book in the series. The next book in the series is Girls with Razor Hearts. So super excited about it. And then, y'all, last but not least, my favorite book of 2021 was A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I love this book. This book was so good. This book was so good. I read it at the very end of 2021. And I'm sure you saw my reading vlog, because it was one of the books that I read to try to reach my Goodreads goal for the year, for 100 books. Oh my gosh, this book was fabulous. I loved every single minute of it. The only thing that I really had a problem with was like the alternating chapters, or like the alternating times. It was kind of hard to understand sometimes, but this book was so good. It had me from the very beginning, and it had me until the very end. So this is about a girl whose dad ended up being charged for murder for 6 girls when she was young, and they were her age when he got arrested. Like, they were around her age. She was 12 when it happened, and her dad got arrested, and he got convicted of killing 6 girls that were like 12 to 16. So that ruined their family. Obviously, that ruined their family. And then as she's grown up, she became a psychologist to try to help people like her, like herself, that have issues and that have bad things, traumatic things that have happened to them in their past. So that's her main goal. But then the 20-year anniversary for her dad's murder charges come around, and things start happening again. And murders in the same town, or like Baton Rouge where she's living now, start trickling out and have the same MO as her dad's murders did. So the cops come to, when they figure out who she is, they come to her because, you know, she has a background with that. And the story just goes, woo! It's so quick, it's so fast paced, and if you don't pay attention to small details, you will miss some things. But this book was great. I loved this book. And there are people out there that are like, this book sucked. This book was so predictable. I didn't find it that predictable, because the entire way through, I thought I knew who was murdering these girls. But then stuff would happen, and I'd be like, well, that person didn't murder the girls. Then that person didn't murder the girls. Wait, did that person actually? I was questioning myself the entire way through. I thought that it was fabulous. And this is a debut novel, and it's going to be turned into a short series, and Emma Stone's supposed to be our person. So I am so excited about that. I'm so excited about this book. But yeah, so those are my top 15 books of 2021. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite book of 2021 was. Books, plural. Have you read anything from my list? Do you agree with some of the books that I liked? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you have a great day. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.